Welcome to the Founders Odyssey podcast, where we create an environment for founders to thrive through education, inspiration, and a supportive community. My name is Nathan Bird, and I will be your host today. Our special guest today, Bennett Maxwell, a founder and entrepreneur, has his focus set on building brands and launching companies. His latest venture, Dirty Dough, which has caught massive traction and has grown to over 60 franchises and counting throughout the nation within the last 6 months, Bennett now has his sight on creating amazing culture and being a strong leader for his company. Join us today as we learn more about Bennett and his Founders Odyssey. Welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this as well, just to truly get to know you as an individual, but also share who you are to our audience, as well as understand more about this amazing traction that we hear of for Dirty Dough. So take us back. What inspires you to be an entrepreneur? And also, what is the definition of entrepreneurship and what does it mean to you?
So ever since I was little, I think it kind of just runs in the family. But I mean, in elementary, I was selling candy bars, going to Costco, we'd buy the candy bars, take them to the school, put a little blanket down and sell them after school. And I've always gravitated towards that. And I just feel like it's such the fairness of entrepreneurship of you get out what you put in, I should say you get out according to the value that you are adding. And I really like that. So that's, I did that. And then I did some lawn aeration, door-to-door sales in junior high, middle school. And then I was knocking doors, selling cookie dough to pay for sports programs and selling discount cards and banners for advertisements. Like if you want to go to football camp, you got to sell those things, So I went and sold it, but that's just kind of how I grew up, was the knocking doors and cold calling and just the sales aspect of it. And then after, I started my professional career in selling, doing the door-to-door, because that's just what I was comfortable with, 100% commission every single time. So I don't know. I like that. I like that there's no ceilings on what I'm doing. And I get, it's very stressful. It causes some anxiety of, every day you're starting at zero, but entrepreneurship as a whole is very similar in my opinion to the sales of like, you get out what you put in according to the value that you put in. And I really like that.
I was speaking to someone the other day and they said, oh yeah, I've got an $11,000 raise per year on my job. And I said, oh, that's great. So then I broke it down into how much that would be monthly. And then I also realized that they are capped at a specific amount per month, as well as per year. And it kind of made me very uncomfortable. So it sounds like that would make you very uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure. I'm all about, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Efficiency. It's all about what's the most efficient way to do something. And if I'm more efficient, I either want more time off or I want to be paid more. But if you're set up, not that I'm super familiar with the corporate world, but seems like you could be more efficient, but you still need to be sitting in your desk for those 8 hours. So how can you really get creative, dive into the problems, solve those problems, and be rewarded by either more time or more money? And anyways, I'm always that efficiency, how do we make this better?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how, you've had influences in your life in the past and how has that created the person you are today? So let's talk a little bit about maybe a mentor or somebody who has greatly influenced you in the past.
Yeah, I would say getting me into the entrepreneurship was my dad. Didn't grow up with my dad a ton. My parents were divorced, but I would see him pretty frequently. It was Cutco knives was kind of what started me off of a big mind shift that occurred. Anyways, I was selling Cutco knives. So I went and applied, I got all dressed up. This was giving me like my first job, my real job. And I got accepted and then like, yeah, I would, come to training next week. It's all week, 40 hours. I go, cool. How much do I get paid? It's like, well, you don't get paid for training. And I'm like, screw this. Like, I'm not, what do you mean? You want me to, this is a scam. You guys are going to want me to work for free. Anyways, my dad helped me adjust my mindset and be like, wait a second. Like they're going to train you for free. Like that is a lot of people pay good money, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to learn the skill of selling and follow up and referrals. If they're going to teach you that for free, you sure as hell better go. So that really changed my mind. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he also introduced me to the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you've ever heard of that book. And in there, they talk about working to learn, not to earn. And it's all about educating yourself, being a professional, knowing the most amount, in my case of sales. And anyway, so those two things early on, maybe I was 18 when that happened, just graduated high school, really gave me that mentality shift of like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to focus on learning. I'm not going to complain because I get to learn for free for 40 hours, So that was a big mind shift for me.
A lot of founders have the focus and are extremely driven in learning and expanding their thought process as well as their horizon basically. And it sounds like that's something that you have and were greatly inspired by your parents or your father, right? But also some mentors maybe throughout that process. Speak to us a little bit about more on your perspective of what sales means to you. And because right now in life we're selling whether we like it or not, ourselves as well as whatever product or service that we have. So break down sales because it sounds like it's something you're very passionate about as well.
For sure. Yeah, I think sales gets a pretty negative connotation of like, slimy salesperson. And a lot of that's justified. But what I think sales is, professional sales at least, is communicating and problem solving. How do I effectively communicate my ideas, get them to communicate their ideas so we can really know and truly understand each other's wants and needs. And then let's see if we can find, something that resolves those wants and needs. So I think most of sales gets a bad rap because you're a salesman, I'll accept anybody, right? It's like you have a heartbeat, you're on the sales team. So a lot of low class or not low class, but undertrained individuals jump in. And I think those are the people that kind of give that, the car salesman type vibe of just being pushy. Where if you stick around and you actually become a sales profession, then it's all about the communication and problem solving.
100%, I agree. Sales is, there's people that, they come in and they think that they're just going to make quick money when it's all about a long-term approach and a relationship that's built to provide value in exchange for that, a value, which is the dollar. And I think that that's interesting. So take us through. So we're, you're slinging candy bars, you're doing some other ventures, right, in elementary and then high school. And then was there any business that you had during college times?
No, not well. I was doing summer sales is what it's referred to here in Utah. So it's, you go to school and then in the summer you have this 4 to 5 month break and you're packing up, moving to a different state and knocking doors. So I would say, I wasn't running my own business, but I was running my own teams, recruiting my own teams, setting up pay structures myself. So that definitely got me started. So like I did my first summer out in California. I just did 2 months. They recruited me halfway through the summer. But in those 2 months, I outsold all the other rookies that were there for 4 or 5 months. Honestly, just because I spent more time learning. And then after that, so, I've never even started a summer, but I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I went and recruited 40 dudes and all 40 of us showed up in North Carolina. All of us don't know what we're doing now. But very eye-opening, because you have some support of the company, but you're all commission-based, both your personal sales plus your override. So it's all about getting your guys to produce. They're all commission-based. So it's kind of a business within a business. And that really got me into that path of entrepreneurship of like, okay, well, I'm kind of running my own little team. I'm recruiting them, training them, motivating them, coming up with incentives for them. That was kind of my first bite of entrepreneurship, I guess.
Let's talk a little bit more about teams and how you incentivize people to produce when, what is your thought process behind leadership right? And then also how to correctly create incentive-based programs.
Yeah, I think at least what I did to be able to recruit, a decent amount of people was focusing on kind of the opposite of what everybody else is focusing on. Everybody else is focusing on, you can make so much money, you can make so much money, you can make so much money, which is cool. Like that's why a lot of people do it. That's why I was doing it. But you can make so much money after you've learned the skills. So like when I was recruiting people, it's all about, hey, this isn't sales training so much. I mean, it is, but I would refer to it as communication. So it's like, Nathan, what do you want to be? What do you want to go into? And it doesn't matter what you respond. I could typically say, okay, so you would say you would need communication skills to achieve that. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, if I can train you to knock on somebody's door within 10 seconds, get their attention, and 15 minutes later, get a year-long pest control contract. If you can do that, would that help you in what you're going to do? So I focused a lot on the building your education before building the money. So it was all education, and then it was education of sales, I should say, sales communication skills. And then we focus a lot on, in every company I've been with, we've done financial Fridays. So it's teaching people, once you get your money, what are you going to do with it? And showing them the path of why they want to go knock that extra door. Because you get these college kids after 20 grand in the summer, they're good, but it's like, why don't you want to make 200? Like you have the potential to do it. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with all that money. So it's like, okay, well, here's how you get into real estate. Here's how you get into a retirement account and insurance and all of that kind of stuff. So weekly, we would train our sales reps on different types of investment opportunities, so they can actually see, okay, if I go work harder, it's going to pay off, because money doesn't get you anything. It's what are you going to do with that money? So I felt if we can show them what that money is going to actually get them, which is, passive income, which equals freedom in the future, then that's how I was getting people to buy in, focusing on that communication skills and the financial education. And then it's like the money will come.
It's extremely wise, really. And what you're doing is vision casting and creating a personal incentive within that person through an introspective look, and then giving them a vehicle in order to achieve what they want, which, well, that's really good. Well, I'm sure that's translated into, what the current state is with the franchise that you're rolling with here right now. But I don't want to touch on that yet. I want to touch on a point in life, or a point of your life, where there was an extremely intense adversity that's come. And, what was one thing that you did in order to overcome that? Because I know everyone out there, all you founders, you've gone through stuff. You're looking for ways to just bounce back. And how do you do that? So share with us.
There's a lot of adversity. The one that comes to mind with this current company that I'm in is, so I purchased this company just over a year ago, and I was running a solar company. I had a solar company at the time. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this part-time. So I just need other people that are willing to do this at part-time. So I put together the dream team part-time. And anyways, so I started this business with 5 other partners. So there's 6 of us. And very quickly, we can see 6 people working part-time. It was never going to work out. So it was, okay, everybody thought that the value that they were putting in is different than how other people perceived it. And everybody was working part-time, but some people maybe a little bit more, some people maybe a little bit less. And it was just was a messy situation. And I honestly thought, like, if we can't figure out this partnership deal, the business is going under because of the partnership. And come to find out, if you don't structure your partnership correctly, that's one of the biggest reasons that businesses fail. So I was lucky enough to take a startup course in Lehigh, Utah, called the Startup Ignition. It was actually one of my partners. It was, anyways, he knew this guy and he'd taken this course. His name is John Richards. So I went and took this course, and then I found out about vesting and about partnership structures and about all of these different things that I had no idea about. So we immediately set all of that up. And within a few months, and then we also set up, like, here's our vesting schedule. Here's how we're going to measure who's performing. No more part-timers, like all of these different things that really came from the startup course. So I really thought that the business was going to go under because of our partnership, and we just weren't going to figure it out. And then I took this course. I guess it comes back to like, let's keep learning. Let's learn from others. And John was kind enough to sit me down. He's like, it's never going to work with part-time people. And unless you set up vesting and sign these documents and all that. So we did. And shortly after, I exercised the right of those agreements, and I bought all my partners out. And it was, anyways, that was a turning point of the business, which is like, okay, now I have all the equity. Now I can run with this full speed because I'm in it full time. I'm putting in all the money, which I wasn't really wanting to do that, not owning the full business.
It's something I've seen with many founders as they start their companies. And for you, for example, you knew that you could make money, right? Mm-hmm. Just like selling something, a product or service that was in essence created by the company owner that put all their time and effort into creating the structure, pulling together teams and whatnot. And it's interesting, a lot of people go that route too, right? They just, I'll just go and make a sale. I'll create income for myself. But there's a whole nother level when you say, okay, now I'm the company owner and I've got now a team of partners. And so it's interesting how you navigated yourself. But the key there was through education and through an insatiable desire to learn more and have to apply something in a time of need. So a lot of times, there are founders just like what you went through, that you've got to have that information and you've got to go learn it. And that's, it looks like and sounds like what you did. So I'm glad that you got over that. Definitely made you stronger.
No, yeah, for sure. And it was, investing in yourself is kind of what it came down to. I was in San Diego. I had to pay for, a flight, place to stay, plus the program for a startup course. And I just sold a solar company. I built a company and sold it within 18 months. Had a nice little exit there. And I'm like, I probably won't know it. I'll probably know most things. I didn't know anything. So it was very big. I mean, the decision to pull the trigger on it was like, I need to invest in myself, invest a portion of your income into progression.
That's good. Well, that brings us to what you're currently doing. I'm really excited to talk about Dirty Dough, your vision for this, as well as how you franchise something. I know a lot of people out there, maybe they've got an idea or they have a successful, maybe a one store or two, who knows, right? And then how do they implement this franchise opportunity for other people to buy into? So explain to us a little bit about Dirty Dough and your vision behind the company.
Yeah. So the vision behind the company starts well before I bought the company. It was back in early 2019. I listened to a podcast, and the guy, Jonathan Haidt, is an American psychologist. Anyways, he's tracking the suicide rates and self-harm rates in kids. And it's over doubled since social medias came out. And a lot of that is this unfair comparison of comparing your normal, boring life to somebody's Instagram perfect life. And at the time, I had a 2-year-old daughter and a newborn daughter. And it's girls that are affected the most. So it's like, crap, like how do you combat that? Like, what do you do? But that got it kind of in my head. And then a close family member, maybe a year after that, 12 years old, 6th grade in elementary, had a suicide attempt. And I'm like, this is crazy. I've never even heard of that. So that same thing, like, well, what do you do? What do you do? Well, when I bought Dirty Dough, I wanted to make the company. Obviously, we wanted something that makes us different than other companies. And I heard one of the employees say, Dirty Dough means the dough's dirty. We have more mix-ins, more fillings inside. I'm like, we're running with that. That's going to be who we are. So, and then that's also a very positive message, right? It's what's on the inside. That's what we're focusing. We're focusing on the inside of the cookie. So it's a very positive. I saw that correlation of like, man, maybe Dirty Dough could be this vehicle on educating me what to do and then providing the funds in combating mental health in kids. So that's my purpose and my vision. I feel like I have 3 customers that I have the potential to change, have an impact on their life. And it's my franchisees, it's my employees and their employees, and then it's our end consumers / the general public. So my vision for Dirty Dough is, if we've sold 60 of these in 6 months, I don't think it's out of the question to have 1,000 of these. So if we have 1,000 of these, what kind of impact can we have at that point? And at 1,000 franchises, you're having hundreds of franchisees. So how can I impact their lives? And what believe I've built is the most simplistic food franchise model that exists right now. So it's lowering the barrier to entry for people to own businesses or own this franchise and have passive income, because you don't need to be a professional baker to do this. We pre-manufacture everything off-site, and then we ship these pre-portioned dough pucks to the stores. So your stores, all you have to do is pop them in the oven. It's very limited on like how you could mess it up. And then it's still a very unique product because we use these special machines. So you can look at one of our cookies and it looks like a peanut butter cookie. Well, you break it open and there's a chocolate dough in the middle. And in the very center, there's hot fudge leaking out, right? So it's a 3-layer cookie that doesn't exist, while it being a very sound and robust model for these franchisees. So that's kind of how I'm serving the first franchisees. Like, let's lower that barrier to entry to give people the chance to buy a franchise that have never worked in food. When I bought this company, I've never worked in food, and I managed it out of San Diego, me living in San Diego. The company was in Arizona. So, and then the other thing that our model has done is really brought down that cost for franchise. So we're definitely one of the lowest, if not the lowest, food franchise model in the space, because you don't need to buy all of the a larger square footage of a space, because you don't have to manufacture your own stuff. You don't have to have your own mixers. You don't have to order your own ingredients. So that's kind of my vision with the first. Number 2 is employees. Most of our employees are, 16 to 22 years old and females. That's who works in a cookie shop. Well, guess who's, the most susceptible to the mental health crisis? Like, right there. So I have a huge potential to better their lives. So we're doing, as a corporate, we pay for a life guidance coach for all of our employees and all the employees for the franchisees. So they get paired up with somebody if it's depression or anxiety or something like that, but it's also happiness mindset or guided meditation, eating habits, exercising regularly, peak performance, financial stress, things like that. And then the third one is just spreading that message of what's on the inside matters most, and trying to, I think we could potentially impact, hundreds of thousands of people with that message. And our nonprofit is building wellness centers inside of, K through 12 schools. So a spot that kids could come in and be educated about mental health, learn about breathing exercises, mindfulness techniques, guided meditation, things like that. So that's kind of my overall vision. I know that was a little lengthy, but I want to provide franchisees the most robust, sound business model that's going to last 40 years. I want to provide our employees and all of the employees of our franchise with a mental health resource for them to have a life coach in whatever area that they need coaching in. And then I want to spread the message of what's on the inside matters most. Life is dirty and messy, but it's meant to be enjoyed, just like our cookies. At the same time, building these wellness center rooms inside schools. So that's kind of big picture, long-winded answer, but that's what I'm going for.
Well, I do believe you've got a wonderful start there, of course. And with any company that you build, you've got to have that vision casting, like what you're doing right now, and you've got a solid vision there. And there's a lot of things that are happening right now within our society, as well as within our youth of today. And just like what you're saying, I could get with your vision there. And I think everyone out there that's listening, tune in to what Bennett here is doing, because they're moving quickly, and you guys could be a part of the dirty dough revolution.
I love it.
But anyway, so we've got franchises once again, and talk to us just a little bit about, because it seems like you're a very systematic person, because I want to be able to feed some of the entrepreneurs out there that maybe they're just exiting their company. Maybe they have some discretionary income and they're looking to invest into other parts of business, as well as maybe create a franchise, or somebody who has a franchise out there or a potential franchise. How do they begin the process without going too far into the legalities? What would your suggestion be to those that want to build a franchise?
So having somebody who has an existing business and wants to franchise it, really it starts with finding the best attorney, vetting a really good franchise attorney. Who else have they done franchise documents for? So that was the first step. And then the kind of steps once you find them, these are like 200-page documents and they're really scary, but man, most of it's preset, it's they're using kind of a template, and then you go in and you adjust your own numbers. So a lot of this is public information, these franchise disclosure documents, and people don't know that. So there's a website that you can go to, man, I think there's 5 states. One of them's California, one of them's Wisconsin. And if you're a franchise in that state, the state publishes, puts all your documents online. So I can go look at competitors' franchise documents. Well, what is their area protection? What do their financials look like? What does their average store do? How much do they charge for a franchise fee? What are their royalty fees? So I'm not shooting in the dark anymore. Me never doing a franchise, not being in the cookie industry or the dessert industry or the food industry, I can go look at Subway's franchise disclosure document and then compare it to Mrs. Fields, compare it to Insomnia, and then compare it to all of these other ones. Even our competitor Crumble, a lot of other competitors out there, like I mentioned, the Insomnia and Mrs. Fields, and I can go look at what they're doing. What do I like? What do I don't like? And then actually have a basis. But I would say like 90% of people that even are trying to buy a franchise don't realize that you can go online and just find everybody's franchise disclosure documents, where a lot of the franchisors kind of hold it as like secret, like, oh, well, you need to earn it before we send this. It's like, dude, it's public.
Well, that's interesting. So yeah, you can research that. I didn't know that, and I'm glad that you shared that with us. I know there's a lot of people out there. Of course, 85% of the people on this podcast are tech entrepreneurs, but that's fine because we've got other people just like yourself, and you're entrepreneurs in so many different industries, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really just about identifying the information, being able to create that structure. Talk to us just a little bit more about the systems that you've implemented, because it sounds like you've got a pretty analytical systematic approach. And how important is that with franchising?
100% important. So, I mean, everybody told me this when I was getting into franchising, and they're like, beware, running a store is completely different than being a franchisor. Because a franchisor, you're in the system of systematizing everything and providing support to make sure that the franchisees are successful. Like, that's your business. It's not how do I get a customer into my cookie store and how do I bake cookies anymore, right? It's how does this franchisee hire correctly? Who are the correct vendors that they need to do, that they need to have? So we started off with, really a lot of this can be done with the correct vendor relationships. So you could get the best realtor firm in the world, right? And they're going to help you for free because they get paid based off the commission. So a lot of these vendor relationships and the systems that we're setting up are third-party systems that we're just, vetting and making sure that they're the best system available. And then we set up everything. So somebody buys a franchise. It's like, well, how much work is this going to be? Well, it depends on what franchise, but we've tried to make it as easy as possible. You buy a franchise, here's your realtor group. They're going to send you locations. They know our specifications. You're going to sign a lease. Then here's your architect guy. He's going to do all your drawings. And then here's your builder. Here's your sign guy. Here's your payroll guy. Here's your bookkeeping guy. Here's your insurance guy. We have everything set up to really make it as easy as you can. Because when I bought this company, I wanted it to be more of a passive investment. I'm a big believer on, if you own a business that doesn't make money without you working, then you just own your own job. And it's typically not a good job because you work the longest and you get paid last. So how do you get a business that you're not working in the business every single day, and it's more of a passive? And that's what we try to build. This is a way for other people to put in some money, and then it's 95% of it it's running by itself, assuming that you've hired a good manager.
That's good. There's a lot of wealth of wisdom here in this podcast, and I just wanted to take a second to personally thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're busy. What is it, 60 franchises in less than 6 months? I'm pretty sure
it gets busy.
What's the goal? Let's do some goal setting right now.
In four years, we want to have 750 franchises, and that's our goal. And what we do after that 4 years, whether we look for an exit at that time or we keep expanding, but that's what we're looking at doing. 750 franchises and open franchises in 4 years.
Okay. Awesome. Well, how do we find you? And then also the company and just share that with our audience.
Yeah.
Today.
So dirtydoughcookies.com is our website. You can find our company website through my website, just bennettmaxwell.com, BENNETT Maxwell.com. And there you can, connect with me on social media. I post typically every day on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, all of that, just trying to share the ups and downs of business, trying to be as transparent as possible. I also do in the Trenches report about every other week that I send out. So you can subscribe to that, just trying to get into the nitty gritty of business, the good, the bad, the ugly, and be as transparent as possible in what we're doing, what's working, what's not working.
What are you looking for right now? I know you got 750, and how can we as a collective with the Founders Odyssey help you?
Man, we're looking for a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously we're continuing to push franchises, and the big thing that we're working on as a corporate though is building out our second facility. Before this first facility was built out, we'd already outsold it because I didn't think that it was going to go. I mean, we started building this app back out in November is when we signed the lease, signed a lease for a warehouse to do 30 stores. Like, wow, that'll take me a few years to get there. And then, by the time before it was even done, we sold 50 something stores and we're like, oh crap. So that's kind of our next thing is just expansion into these other, much larger warehouse. So we can then make more cookies and distribute to more places. Cause we have, dozens and dozens of people inquiring in other states, just waiting for us to ramp up their production so they can open up there.
Okay. So you're looking for warehouse spacing, possibly, in multiple locations across the nation. I mean, right?
Yeah, we'll do probably 3 or 4 like hubs throughout the nation. And then from there we'll distribute to each of the local stores. So that's kind of our model, but doing that, we will be raising money here in the next few months. I just wanted to open up a handful of stores first. So we will do a little round and then we're continuing to push the branding, the messaging of the mental health and helping out this nonprofit, the greater good, right? What can we do with the money with cookies? Like there's 1,000 ways to make money, right? But how do you get a part of a business that is making good money, but also giving back to the community? So like if you bought the Salt Lake City franchise, then we would go to Salt Lake City High School and say, hey, do you guys want to, do this wellness center? We have the whole program. We'll fund it for you. If they say yes, then we contact you as the franchisee and say, hey, between us, you and the community, let's build this together. And really trying to get people involved in their local communities in building these wellness centers.
Well, you heard it here, guys, first. It's really what's inside that matters most. And that's the mission here from Bennett and Dirty Dough. We just want to say thank you once again for tuning in to the Founders Odyssey. If you guys like this episode, feel free to subscribe as well as share it with your friends across all social platforms. You can find us on Spotify as well as in video on YouTube. Thank you once again. And Bennett, really appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.